on worse note, I don't even know if it's worse. I don't even know what to think of this or make of this, but do you know that China built or is going to build a spy base about 400 miles from Florida, and it's I think they paid like $7 billion to have it built, or they paid Cuba $7 billion, which is, it's kind of funny, but also I feel like this will become more important in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much we can do about it besides just do what we always do, which is just, sanction companies, sanction businesses or people or whatever. But that doesn't tend to actually stop anything because, well, you're just kind of driving them further and further to that extreme they're already headed down. And, if we had a actual friendly relationship with Cuba, which, Obama tried to kind of jumpstart, fuck that up. And I don't think Biden has really kind of paid any attention to Cuba. But if we had a friendly relationship with our neighbors, and, had done some work to, I guess, pardon our sins that we've committed on Central and South America, maybe, Cuba would be less willing to listen to or not appeal. There's a word I'm looking for. I guess, appease China, whatever word you want to use. Yeah, like, they'd be less willing to work with China. And I guess this is the consequences of decades worth of American foreign policy, is that one of our geographically closest neighbors is conspiring with who some would call our greatest geopolitical enemy or threat, rather.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It's China. I think that's how he does it. I feel like you do a better Trump China than me, but that's exactly it. Is like our neighbors don't want to be our neighbors anymore, and they're inviting our enemies, or just our geopolitical enemies. I don't know if, once again, I'm not calling China the enemy, but that's how it's seen by some people. Our biggest competitor, how about that? One of our biggest competitors in the global world. And they are moving closer and closer to the front door. And so it's just kind of scary to see this happen, and then also see what's going to happen with Taiwan, and what does this mean if a fight was to break out on that side of the world. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to understand what's kind of going on in the Chinese government when it comes to Taiwan. With Cuba, I think that this is a continuation of Chinese foreign policy, basically going where there just hasn't been the same level of outreach as there has been to European countries. It's kind of old news about China's investment, if you want to call it that. I just call it exploitation because it really is exploitation, but of Africa, or multiple countries in Africa. But they are doing things in Africa that the Western countries aren't doing, such as building infrastructure. And granted, that infrastructure is the benefit of the Chinese, not the people there. But hey, you didn't have a paved road before, you have a paved road now, and it's because China did it. I mean, if you're just a guy that's just working and trying to provide a living for your family, I mean, that's a positive check in your book, and you're not going to worry about whatever consequences, because that's not really your problem in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of things that we could have.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of stuff that we could have done, and this is kind of like what and we've talked about this a lot in the past, like my kind of geopolitical philosophy, or what I would want to see the U.S. doing, going to areas and working with these different countries and trying to build up the economy locally in those areas. But we're trying to step in where we've neglected or just ignored a lot of issues, and it's helping them gain a lot of influence in parts of the world. And the U.S. we only have ourselves to blame. We can't really fault China for doing this. We can't fault the other countries for cooperating with China. Like if we wanted to do something about it, we should have done something about it 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and to go back to the Africa point, I have friends that live in Africa, and one of my friends has told me, like, on one hand, it's good to have like somebody come in and help like fund all this infrastructure, and it is helping like get jobs going, and it is helping businesses develop. But on the other hand, there's a huge concern that the country won't be able to pay back. It won't be able to pay back like China, and they will forever be in debt to China, and that could. And then the other thing is they're building up all this infrastructure, and then they're completely they're building it and moving on to the next thing. And I'm like, which is a problem because this construction is like, the people there don't have the training to like know how to maintain these types of constructions and like actually like keep it maintained and keep it like in good condition. And so like there's a whole multitude of problems, but I absolutely agree is that the US kind of missed its opportunity in helping the world instead of going and just bombing other countries and doing other bad shit. To put it blatantly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of kind of I guess summarizing both our points. Yeah. And similar thing, I don't remember what country it was actually. It was definitely here in the Caribbean. I want to say Jamaica, but I feel like that's also completely wrong, where China completely renovated a bay and imposed these really tough to meet terms on the country being able to basically gain control of it and being able to pay it off. And so because they weren't able to pay it off, China now owns that harbor. But I mean, this is just China, really just doing Western style capitalism better. If that's what we want to call it, not better as in good, but just, according to like the methods and goals of Western style capitalism, just being better at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just like you really summarized it, and I couldn't have said it any better than how you just said, basically. Do you think that like China will one day go for Taiwan?
It's real. I think it's hard to say. Granted, like I just don't have the knowledge of what China's doing in that area. I think that. I mean, if it's me, and granted, like I've never ran much of anything, but like if it's me and I'm China, like I would be doing exactly what it's doing and focusing up on establishing relationships in Central, South America, and Africa, and really kind of building up goodwill in these places, and basically not dissimilar to kind of how the Soviet Union, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but I guess in a sort of Warsaw Pact versus NATO kind of way, NATO still exists, but this is kind of China's own version of the Warsaw Pact, so to speak.
Yeah, no, actually. I mean, I think they could in the future potentially invade. I just think it would have to be in the right conditions. I think they're prepping for the potential possibility at this current moment. Would be my initial assessment.
Yeah.
I don't even know how
my biggest concern.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just saying my only concern, if I was China, would be the U.S. And I would think that China's decision on whether or not to invade Taiwan depends on what they expect the U.S. response to be, which is why Biden's been very much like, this has been pretty blatant in stressing the importance of their relationship with Taiwan and our our desire to defend Taiwan should China kind of overstep its bounds. But if the U.S. were to collapse, which, you know, who knows if or when that would happen, I wouldn't be surprised that if China invaded Taiwan pretty quickly after that. But that's
why I say it depends on the conditions, and I think it would be when the U.S. is in a weaker position. Well, I don't know what that would look like, whether that's economically or in all aspects in terms of a complete collapse. I don't know.